Good afternoon. This is Kasha Mitchell with Arizona Home Consultants. Today I have the pleasure of sitting down with Jeff Stack and Scott Sommer, not Summers, Sommer, and we are going to get to know the Fountain Hills Rotary Club a little bit better today. Jeff, will you start? What is your position with the Fountain Hills Rotary Club?
I am the current president of the Fountain Hills Rotary Club, located in Fountain Hills, of course.
That's right.
The best city ever.
Maybe the best town ever.
Yeah.
Area code
so.
85268.
Yeah.
Well rehearsed. I like
For
it.
For sure.
And Scott, tell us what your position is.
So I'm actually a past president. I was president of the club about 4 years ago for a 2.5-year stint. And currently I am the president of the Four Peaks Rotary Foundation.
Ooh, two presidents. Tell
Yes.
me how that works. What's the difference?
Well, I don't know that there is a huge difference, Jeff. I'll let you kind of correct me if I'm wrong, but effectively the foundation is just it's a giving arm of the Four Peaks Rotary Club.
I love it.
Every member of the foundation is already a member of the Four Peaks Rotary Club.
Okay.
But not every member of the club is a member of the foundation.
Oh.
So the foundation is a little bit of a subset of the rest of the club. The entire club raises funds and donates funds, and the foundation is responsible for distributing those funds however they see fit on behalf of the club and the foundation.
That's awesome. So first of all, I came in contact with the Rotary Club kind of unexpectedly. I had a girlfriend call me, and she said that the Rotary needed some volunteers for Oktoberfest.
Correct.
That you all host that beautiful event in Fountain Hills, live music, delicious food, contests, vendors. It's a beautiful event, and she said you needed some people to pour beer.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I can pour beer. So that's how we met.
It is, yeah. It was actually. I still remember the day that you signed up, because I put the sign up genius out there, and this name of Kasha Mitchell comes up, and she signed up for every single shift. And I'm like, this is not right at all. So I remember calling you and saying, hey, is this right? Did you sign up for every single shift? And you're like, yeah, no, that's right. Why is this so hard to understand? And I was like, you know what? This individual would make a fantastic Rotarian, but you certainly made my job easier. And the Oktoberfest is something that we started. We started hosting it as a new host for the event. The event has actually been around for about 17 years, and it's been hosted by a couple of different organizations. This year, it just happened to be hosted by Four Peaks Rotary, and that's kind of how our paths first crossed.
Yeah, and the Oktoberfest was one of my first introductions to Fountain Hills. I believe it was actually my second.
Okay.
I had a friend who said Oktoberfest is going on, let's go up, and I'd been to Fountain Hills one other time, and I ironically hadn't been to the park the first time I went, and so it was a great introduction, and I did sign up for every shift.
Yep.
One of the reasons I do what I do now is my significant other passed away this year, and anyone who's had that experience knows just how traumatic that can be. And I of course handled it like everyone would. I Googled how do you get through this, and one of the things that they talked about is finding things that were meaningful to do with your time. And so when the opportunity to serve came up, I was like, yes, please.
Yeah.
And then it's actually the reason I do the podcast as well, because I really want to, I want to make my time here meaningful. I want to honor him. He loved the Fountain Hills community. We had dreams to do things like this together. We were terrible business partners because we really enjoyed each other's company, and so it was hard to work past 2 p.m. We like to play. But I am, part of this is just really dear to my heart, because it's a way that I'm healing. It's a way that I'm connecting with my community. And I don't have a schedule like I used to. So like having some place to be with other like-minded people and serving alongside awesome people in our community is actually something that's been a true blessing for me as I go through this process. So thank you for the opportunity to join you. And it was fun that I didn't have to be a Rotarian to do it.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, Rotary is one of those things where there's a lot of people that don't know what it is.
Right. And that was my next question.
Yep.
So let's go right into it. What is it? I went to a Rotary meeting in 97.
Okay.
And I'm pretty sure I still, just got my first taste of it last week when we sat down.
Yeah.
What is Rotary?
Yeah. So Rotary is it's a service organization, and it was started by a gentleman by the name of Paul Harris back in 1905. So it's been around for about 119 years, if my math is correct. Yeah, 119 years. We're going to be 120 years old next year, as a matter of fact. And I hope I'm doing that math right, but I believe it is. And that club that he started in Chicago, he started it with 4 individuals. And the interesting thing is Jeff, do you know how the name Rotary came to be?
I think so. So there were these 4 men, businessmen, he invited to get together to talk about how they could make their communities better.
Right.
And they would meet in each of the original 4 members' offices in a rotation.
Right.
Is that where it comes from?
That's
so
100% right.
They would rotate from person A, B, C, and D, and then back to A again.
Yeah.
Rotary.
Yep. They would just rotate from office to office. And some of the background was, these individuals were very wealthy. They were typically either owners or high-level executives in organizations. And I think the position was, hey, you know what? We've been really financially successful, and we see that there's some needs in the world. How do we channel that? And how do we make a difference and do it in an organized fashion? And I think that's effectively how Paul Harris born Rotary.
Personally, that is so inspiring to me. There are 4 people in the studio right now.
That's
and just
right.
the thought that 4 people could get together and create something that has as big of an impact as Rotary does is awesome to me.
Yeah, and you fast forward to today, 119 years later, and we have right around, what is it, Jeff?
1.2?
1.2, 1.4, somewhere in that.
Over a million
members.
Rotarians around the world.
That gives me goosebumps.
Yeah.
Located in every country of the world with the exception of Russia.
Wow.
Yeah, correct.
Wow.
Amazing.
33,000 clubs.
That's astounding.
And Jeff and I
That's
are in
so
one
beautiful.
of those 33,000 clubs.
Potentially the best club and potentially the
obviously.
best town.
We're very prideful.
I would love to hear how each of you got connected with Rotary personally. Would you like to start?
Sure. Every person that attends a Rotary meeting, as you did, is invited to attend a meeting.
Okay.
I was invited by a lady in town who was a Rotarian for just a short period of time, but she felt as though it might be a good place for me to be. This is about 5, almost 6 years ago. I was just starting a new business, and I thought this was a great networking opportunity. And I walked into the room and was seated with a group of individuals that I didn't know, except for the person who was hosting me. But as I looked around the room, I knew about 5 or 6 people that I met in town already, and I thought, holy cow, I've only been in this growth spurt of my business for a very short period of time, and yet I know 5 or 6 people in this room, and these are like the movers and shakers of Fountain Hills. This is the right place for me. The president at the time was introducing himself to me. He was like, oh, we met each other. He was the guy who had just finished creating pens for me, promotional pens for my company, and I was about to distribute them at an upcoming fair.
That's awesome. What is your company? I want you to be able to share that. And I know it's about Rotary, but what do you do?
My company name is Home Watch Neighbor.
Okay.
And I take care of snowbirds' homes when they're out of town.
That is an absolutely brilliant fit for our community.
Yeah. It has become so rewarding for me, and unexpectedly, I suppose. Mm-hmm. I expected it to be somewhat successful, but it's become way more rewarding than I ever expected it to be.
I love it.
And you might know my motto. Do you know my motto?
Oh, I know this one.
Go ahead.
I know
What
this
is
one.
it? I don't. So don't put me
Should
on
we
the
say
hot
it
seat.
together?
Let's.
All right.
A vacant home is a vulnerable home.
Amen. And I can attest to that as a realtor.
See how important it is to have a tagline? Is that a tagline or a motto?
That might be a motto.
It's a truth. Preach it.
Yeah.
No, and in our community, there is a massive portion
sure.
of the community that are snowbirds. And as a realtor, whenever my clients are purchasing homes that's been vacant for a while, one of the things I do is I prep them for potential problems because when water's not running through pipes and things are expanding and contracting, especially with our extreme temperatures, that's a recipe for a disaster. And I imagine you could tell us about a million more.
I do, but let's save that for another time.
Let's do it. I would love to do that another time.
Yeah, and I think, you know, I don't want to speak broadly, but I think many insurance companies actually are moving towards requiring home art services for partially vacant, or excuse me, unoccupied homes.
It is so wise. Every individual that I have that has purchased that is a snowbird, I tell them it is imperative.
Yeah.
And I am so curious how our paths have crossed in the past unwittingly, because I didn't have someone that was my go-to person for that. I do now.
Yeah.
So you went in with the idea of, I'm going to do some business networking. You find that the movers and shakers are there. And is that what it ended up being for you? Was a networking opportunity?
I found that it was not an opportunity that I wanted to pitch my business to these people. I felt like it was going to happen organically. And in some respects it has. Some of the people in that room that day have referred my business. Some people in that room have become clients. And I've referred people that were in that room for my clients. So it's kind of the trifecta of business. And has it become that? Yeah, there's always networking that goes on, but
if I remember correctly, you said something else happened when we sat down, that there was more to it. You found something else there. What did you find?
I found that world to be very rewarding as well. And there's many things that we do as Rotarians around town, and maybe the one that you're referring to is the one that on Memorial Day when we plant flags. Is that what you're referring to?
Well, I remember actually, it was kind of a blanket. I remember you saying, like, I went in there for business opportunities, but your heart got captured by something else. And it really was the service aspect of the club. So tell me.
So two things I'll mention. One is the service aspect. And one of the things that we do is we plant flags around the fountain on Memorial Day. And at 6 o'clock in the morning, we meet and we plant flags about every 8 feet around the entire fountain and then now up the avenue of the fountains. And it was so rewarding to walk around and plant those flags and have people who were jogging or walking their dogs thanking us for doing that. And it turns out to be a beautiful thing at the end of the day. So first thing in the morning, we plant the flags. And then just before sunset, we retrieve the flags. And it's very satisfying and such a feel good to do that on an annual basis.
It's an exceptional experience. I pulled up this year to the park to hike and saw the flags. And as I'm getting out of my car, tears are welling up just seeing them. I have a lot of military family, and I honestly didn't know who did that. So thank you for doing that. Thank you for honoring our country and our service members. And I hope to join you next year, because that I can only imagine what being a part of it would be like, because just experiencing it is magical. We
have had friends of the Rotary that are not Rotarians come and join us, and they enjoy it as well. You'd be welcome to attend as well.
Thank you.
The time that you're referring to, I believe, was when we had a giving day and we donated funds. We had grants that we gave out to an organization in Mexico and an organization in Rio Verde, a town just north of us. And that was my special moment where I was like, oh my God, we're affecting people not only locally, but around the world. And here we are donating funds to an orphanage in Mexico and to a Raining Grace Ranch in Rio Verde.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah.
That's something I've always said. It's really, anybody can give of their time, their talent, their treasure. Anybody can do that. Okay, you don't have to be a part of an organization. However, to be able to do it efficiently and to be able to have a reach as far as we do, I get to be, a small fraction of a part of a much larger organization by being involved in Rotary. I could never tackle polio on my own.
Right.
But I can join an organization that has the cornerstone of eradicating polio worldwide and still be a small part of it. So Rotary offers, to your point, so much. And I also want to add, we historically, we didn't always open up our service projects to the community.
Okay.
For example, the flags, great example. Another example is on the 5th of July, early in the morning, because it's hot in July, we go down and we clean Fountain Park. But what we do is we open that up to the community and we say, hey, if you want to come and help us pick up all of your trash, so to speak, come meet us. It takes an hour and a half, and we just sweep the whole park and we get all the trash picked up, and it gives us an opportunity to be out in the community, to give back. But most importantly, to meet new people in the community and have people in the community meet us.
Yeah.
And we love it. It works out really well. And then, of course, we go to breakfast afterwards.
Of course. Why not?
Absolutely.
Why wouldn't you?
For sure.
Well, and just for clarity, the reason we do it on the 5th of July is because the night before is the 4th of July fireworks.
Generally, the 4th is before the 5th.
Correct.
Right?
And
Okay.
this year was no different.
It's good to know.
But the reason that there's trash in the park is because they have the fireworks show at the park. People sit around the entirety of the park to watch the fireworks. And while we're picking up individuals' trash around, people who did not pick up after themselves, on one end of the park, we're actually picking up the leftover ordinances that have fallen from the sky.
Oh, okay.
So there's a reason
Yeah.
that we're there on the 5th of July every year.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. Colin's parents found a meaningful spot in the park to kind of memorialize him, and there's a specific bench, and I'll go sit on that bench. I'll send him pictures from the bench, and when there's stuff around the bench, my heart hurts.
Yeah.
And so I've got my own little territory, my little
Nice.
cleanup territory. But I love to hear that you do that, and it does make an impact. Our community, there's a lot of honor and a lot of pride in that
Yes,
community, and you guys are
sure.
very obviously an integral part of that, and that's awesome.
Yeah, we love Fountain Hills. In fact, we were talking about that as we were going into this today. Is like, man, this is something I always share about Fountain Hills, particularly with people that live there, and that is we get to wake up every morning in an area where people from all around the world come to vacation to.
Yeah.
And we get to wake up here every single morning, and we should always be mindful of that. We're in a very, very special community here.
Absolutely. What's so interesting to me is that there's a heartbeat in that
Yep.
community. And I think that largely that heartbeat comes from individuals like you and organizations like Rotary, where people find their people and they organize and they get things done and they serve. And I don't know if there's anything more exciting and anything more just healthy within
Right.
a community. It's interesting to me how integrated a lot of the organizations are, and maybe we'll get into that a little bit later. But let's hear how you got connected with Rotary.
So kind of in a similar situation, full disclosure, I didn't know, I think I could barely spell Rotary, much less know anything about it. And it was about probably 8 years ago, a very good friend of mine, Scott Sommer. Actually, there were two individuals, Scott Sommer and Art Tolis in town. One of them is a farmer's insurance broker, and the other one is a mortgage broker. And they came up to me because we were in a Chamber of Commerce Leads group, and they came up to me and they said, "Hey, why aren't you in Rotary?" And I said, that's a interesting point, and perhaps if I knew something about Rotary, I would be able to more effectively answer that. And they said, "Come to a meeting." And I said, "All right, I'll come to a meeting." So 6:45 in the morning on a Thursday, I walked into Fountain View Village, which is where we were meeting at the time, And similar to Jeff, kind of walked in there and I knew a bunch of people. But that wasn't the real story. The real story was when I walked in, there was an energy in the room. And everybody was, for lack of a better expression, kind of poking fun at one another, and they were laughing. And I was thinking, gosh, I haven't even had my second cup of coffee yet, and these guys are really active this time in the morning. But it was at that moment that I knew this is an organization that I want to be a part of. This is something that I don't want to leave on the table, and I don't want to miss out on. So, after the meeting, I touched base with the membership chair at the time. Membership chair is a great, great, great guy. His name is Bill Pape. And Bill, I love Bill to death, don't get me wrong. However, if you want an 8-page document turned into 40, Bill is your guy. And I called Bill and I said, Bill, I want to join Rotary. Who do I make the check out to? Da 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 da. And he goes, Scott, relax. There's a process that has to be followed. And that was kind of my first taste. But I fell in love with Rotary. And truth be told, from the time that I attended my first meeting to the time that I actually got inducted as a full-fledged official member where I could wear my name tag and my pin and everything else, was about an 8-month span.
Okay.
And the reason for that was I was, even in those early days, I was so passionate about the organization and so passionate about the members that were in the club that I wanted to make sure that as much of my family, my parents, my spouse, my kids, I wanted them all there to witness the induction. So that's the reason that I continued to go, as a visitor for as long as I did. I love the club. There are some that have a tagline. Our current district governor, her name is Michelle Holcomb. And Michelle, ironically, is a member of the other Fountain Hills Rotary Club. There's 2. Ooh. Jeff and I are in Four Peaks. There's also Fountain Hills Rotary Club, which is even older. And we'll get to that a little bit later on in the show. But Michelle has a great saying that in Rotary, because it is a networking group, but similar to what Jeff has said, you don't come in there and say, hey, I'm a home watch company, leave your house with me. No, you come in there because you have similar ideas and values as other members in the group. And Jeff, you probably have never solicited any business out of the club. I had a heating and air conditioning company at the time. I never solicited any work from any of the members, but it just naturally flowed.
Being in an industry and a small business owner, which I have been the majority of my life, one of the most atrocious jobs in the world is promoting your business.
Yeah.
I hate it.
Mm-hmm. I get it.
And it's, it's amazing how different people, coaches, whatever, they'll tell you need to do this, you need to do that. And I find those experiences virtually repulsive. Yeah. To go to a BNI meeting.
Yeah. Oh.
I don't typically refer people because I'm like, I'm sure your business is great. You seem lovely. Right. But there's this guy that I volunteer with at the American Legion. He's got a huge heart. He's always helping out. He's always this. Yeah. And I'm like, if I didn't know him, I might refer for you, but
it comes down to, how genuine.
Right.
And so our current district governor, she kind of has a tagline for herself. And she said, Rotary is something where, you do come for the business, but the important thing is that you stay for the friendship. And that's really what it's about. She's taking it one step further this year. Every year our district governors have kind of a theme for the district. And this year, our district governor's theme is Rotary Means Business. And we need to get back to kind of finding that fine balance between there are many that feel, networking is kind of a 4-letter word in Rotary. Reality is it's not. It's not at all. Paul Harris started this dual purpose as a premise of networking and service. And you can do both.
Well, and isn't it more fulfilling when you do?
Yes.
You know, ultimately, anything that's simply business related, and I love what I do. So I say this very cautiously because I literally love what I do. I feel like having a home, feeling at home, is one of the most compelling experiences in life. And as an American, the fact that it's so readily available is beautiful. However, the moment that I can take and connect my heart with my head,
Right.
like that's when I'm all in. And I feel like Rotary seems to be, if I'm not mistaken, just the place where that absolutely happens, because it's head and heart, it's business and service, it's community,
Right.
and it's earning a living, your livelihood. It takes up the majority of our time, our days. We spend the most amount of time with the people that we work with.
Yeah.
So why not do it with lovely, beautiful people, like-minded people?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So a couple things come to mind as we talk about this. One of the mottos of the Rotary is service above self. And I think that's meaningful. You talked about it earlier, and we talked about it when we plant the flags around the fountain. The other thing is, we talked about it being a networking group, and it has evolved with time. Initially, when the Rotary was formed, it was these 4 individuals in 4 different categories of business. And as Rotary clubs began, there was never competition within the room with 2 people competing for the same business. So if there was another home watch company that wanted to join back in the day, they would not be allowed to join because that was Jeff's territory.
Oh, interesting.
It has since evolved, and now there's no conflict. Anybody
Right.
can come
Nice.
in and join. So yes, networking, but more social, I guess, as a result of that, right?
I think so.
So we do have multiple insurance companies, multiple realtors in the group, multiple service providers in all fields, I think.
I love that. I mean, in my business specifically, it's a team sport, and I feel like actually honored to be a part of the Fountain Hills community because there are so many outstanding realtors.
Yeah.
And when you're doing those cross transactions, it's beautiful. I know not every business is like that, but I do love that aspect. We do have a limited amount of time today. I'm hoping I get to sit down with you again in the future. We
Sure.
get to have another conversation, or maybe we just follow this up with a second conversation. But in the interest of time, could you tell me, how do we get involved? Do I have to just hope that somebody from Rotary notices me and says, hey, do you want to go to a meeting? Or if I wanted to be proactive, or if I wanted a little bit more information, how would I get involved?
Information is available on our website.
Okay.
You would be welcome as our guest to come to any one of our meetings.
Thank you.
You could meet a Rotarian anywhere in restaurants or drinking establishments and have the conversation. I'm sure you would be welcomed. There was a Fountain Hills, what was it called? That thing at the
Are you thinking of the Volunteer Expo?
Volunteer
Volunteer
Expo.
Expo. And
That is smart.
I want to say, is that in the spring?
I think it
Typically,
is.
it must be, because I
Is
feel
it
like it's been a while.
associated with the art fair? Or
No,
is it,
no.
Okay.
No, this is
This is a
something
town
standalone.
event.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so different volunteer organizations set up their tables
Yep.
around the large room. And if you're interested in volunteering, you could walk through this expo and find those things that are most meaningful to you, or gather brochures and do your homework. I think 3 or 4 of our current Rotarians
Yes.
came from
Oh, fun.
that session.
Yeah, I like to say it's kind of like speed dating.
Yeah.
For, the, for
volunteer
volunteers.
organizations.
Yeah, yeah,
For
yeah.
all of us that are very interesting people in our spare time.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I would encourage, even if I think, kind of as we wrap up today, even if it's not Rotary,
Right.
get involved with something. It's kind of scary. Our society is really becoming one of which that so many are on the take, And it doesn't take a lot, just find an avenue that meets your needs where you can give back. Of course, we would prefer that it would be Rotary, but there's a number of organizations.
Please share the name or website address.
So the website address is www.fourpeaksrotary.org.
Awesome. I will make sure that is in our notes.
Perfect.
I happen to know a couple of Rotary members, so in the event that you want a personal introduction, I'd be honored to do that. As I've gotten to know these gentlemen, it's been really exciting and really fulfilling serving alongside you in the Oktoberfest beer tent, and then having the opportunity to sit down with you and chat prior to this conversation. I can tell you these are beautiful hearts, and if you're not giving in, if you simply don't feel connected to your community, whether you're part of our community, Fountain Hills, or whether you're part of another community, Rotary is a fantastic way to get involved with beautiful people, and there are potential more benefits than just the warm fuzzies, the goodness you can do for yourself and for humanity. But it's a great way to integrate your business into the community as well. So I'd say do it, and if we can help, let us know. Thank you so much for joining us today.